Charting Toward Intimacy covers mature topics. Listener discretion is advised. Charting Toward Intimacy covers mature topics. Listener discretion is advised.
Your pelvic floor is not a magical unicorn. It doesn't work by itself.
Hey there, welcome to Charting Toward Intimacy, where we're expanding the natural family planning conversation. I'm your host, Ellen Holloway. Hey guys, before we get started with this podcast episode talking about pelvic floor with Jen of Tighten Your Tinkler, I want to mention that after recording this episode with Jen, I talked with her a little bit more about my own pelvic floor symptoms and what things that I thought were very low level, not a big deal, completely normal. Realizing that these were the early signs of pelvic floor dysfunction. And I actually did sign up for the Tighten Your Tinkler program, and I did it for 30 days. And friends, this was a 180 flip. It was incredible. I have never been involved in a physical therapy program that was as easy and as life-changing, honestly, as this program. So I have a link. I just want to encourage you guys. There's a link in the show notes to sign up for this program. It is worth it. When I took their quiz, I think I scored in the low 30s. So again, I was kind of low level, entry level symptoms, but this program changed my life, and it will yours too, if you want to sign up for it. So I just want to encourage all of you listening, that after you listen to this episode, if you have that little inkling in your mind of like, well, I wonder, it's totally worth it. And I would highly encourage you guys to sign up. All right, on to the episode. All right, everybody, we are here with Jen Lormond, and she is a part of Tighten Your Tinkler, which is a fabulous name for your company. Jen, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So could you start by introducing yourself? And I think in that introduction of yourself, our listeners will get an understanding of what we're going to be chatting about today.
Yes, I am an exercise physiologist and a mom of 3 boys, 18, 16, and 8. And basically, I have stage 2 prolapse of all 3 vaginal compartments. And that's really what got me on the journey of holistic women's health and creating the protocol that Christina and I use. While we did create this protocol first for ourselves, we also, because we're super big nerds, took the time to do a university research study to prove that this protocol actually does work. So we are published in several different medical journals, one being the Journal of Women's Health Physical Therapy. So this does work. We have repeated the process over and over again. And really, I think the 2 things that your listeners will be very excited about, as I was very excited about being referred for a full pelvic floor suspension surgery, is this protocol does not require you to do Kegels. So no guessing about, am I doing this right? This feels weird. I'm not sure. It also doesn't require you sticking anything into your nether regions, as we like to say. So you are not penetrating yourself with anything. You do not have to further lose your sense of dignity that a lot of us struggle with when we have the falling of the pelvic organs and some of the issues that come with that. You are not having to be penetrated by someone else with a device, nor are you having to do that to yourself. So that is really exciting. It's one of the things that I love about personally using the protocol. And yeah, it's just been an amazing journey for Christina and I, helping women get back their quality of life, doing things with their children that they were not able to do previously, sleeping through the night without having to get up and pee 5 times a night, because that is another thing that happens with this.
Yeah.
Not feeling like you want to hold yourself like a 2-year-old that has to potty because of all the downward pressure that a lot of women feel. So many things. And so, yeah, it's been a wonderful, blessed journey.
That is amazing. And yeah, I mean, I think when we hear pelvic floor, we automatically think Kegels, or
Yes.
we think, a dilator set, which neither of those sound all that interesting to me.
No.
Particularly not the dilator set. And that, I mean, that's like that's one of the most common things, like when people have pelvic floor, or, when they have pain with sex. Sorry, that's what I was trying to say. Pain with penetration. It's like, oh, well, clearly you just need a dilator set. And that just, whenever I've heard that just has not sat very well with me, because I'm not really interested in penetrating myself. I understand it is, it's for a therapeutic reason. There's nothing morally wrong with that, but it doesn't feel right. And the reason it doesn't feel right is because that's not actually how our bodies were designed to work.
That's
We're
correct.
supposed to be penetrated by one thing.
Yes.
I think we can all guess what that is.
Well, and it's a Band-Aid fix. I mean, most women that we work with that are dealing with pain upon insertion really have an over tight pelvic floor. So when you're using something like a dilator and you're having someone else penetrate you with this, or you're trying to figure out the right way, it makes you contract and tighten up and tense up. So all it does is further perpetuate the issue that's causing the problem.
Definitely.
Right? There's a better way. You want to get to the root cause. So, you have to address the tight hip flexors. You need to calm down the nervous system. You need to rebalance the strength of all of those muscles that work together, because we all like to talk about our pelvic floors as being the issue. Christina and I always say your pelvic floor is not a magical unicorn. It doesn't work by itself. It works. God designed our bodies to have our pelvic floors work in conjunction with our deep abdominals, our back extensors, our hip rotators. All of these muscles are meant to come on board together without you having to think and brace. Like there's a lot of teaching of bracing the abs and kegling and holding. Our bodies weren't designed to function that way. And if you're functioning that way, where every single time you go to lift your child, or you're trying to do something, active in your life, and you're bracing, that's another Band-Aid fix, because you're creating negative downward pressure, which in the end of this, if you're dealing with prolapse, it makes everything worse. So,
right.
What we do is really try to reboot, this is what we do. We reboot the foundational muscles and your nervous system. There's a lot of different things. We call it dysfunction because it's multi-system that are dysfunctioning here. It's not just one thing that's isolated. So really, to get to the bottom of this and get to the root of it, you have to address the pressure issues. We do that with diaphragmatic breath work, and we teach a pelvic organ decompression position, which feels great. You have to address the nervous system piece, because if you're having pain with intimacy upon insertion, that means you're spun up. So you're probably dealing with some anxiety, and that stems from that fight or flight system. So we need to decompress that vagus nerve and get ourselves back into that rest and digest, or rest and relax system, because that's the only way we're going to get those muscles to come out of that, I'm holding on for dear life. If I let go, bad things are going to happen. Right? And then we have to rebalance the strength, because yes, during pregnancy, things happen. God designed our bodies so that our abdominals can separate at the front to accommodate for our expanding bellies. God designed our bodies so that, our pelvic floor is going to stretch. We need our pelvic floors to stretch so that we can have a vaginal delivery, right? All we need is a little gentle nudge, as Christina and I like to say, to get the body rebooted and back on board, supporting you in the way it was designed to support you.
Yes. Oh, I love all of these things that you're saying. I was imagining, if people are having a hard time understanding this connection thing, I was just thinking about how sometimes you can get a headache because you have back pain, because you have a tight back and you have a tight neck, then you get a headache. The headache is like the pelvic floor dysfunction that you're having. And the neck and the back tightness, that's what Jenna's been talking about with these, your hip flexors and your abs and just, that gentle nudge back in the right direction with all of these muscles that are supposed to be working together. I love what you're saying about it's not a magical unicorn. It's not on its own. No part of our body.
That's right.
Is on its own. They all work together. Oh my gosh. I'm just going to throw some theology of the body in here. Right. I think it's St. Paul, right, talks about how the communion of saints is the body. And just because you're a hand doesn't mean you shouldn't want to be, or you should want to be a foot or something like that. Right. He's saying that the whole communion of saints works together. The whole communion of our humanity works together. If our body is an image of God's creation, if our body is an image of God, then why wouldn't our body all work together in the same way that all of creation works together? No person should be on an island. Therefore, your pelvic floor should not be on an island.
I love that. Yes. So, right. And the Western medical system right now, unfortunately, is telling women that these things are normal, that they're common, right? Mm-hmm. And so here's this pill to fix the fact that you're peeing more than 10 times a day. Okay, we'll fix that. And then you'll get, side effects because you haven't gotten to the root cause.
Yep.
And here's this surgery. Oh, you're having problems with your uterus? Let's just go ahead and take that thing out. We'll get rid of that problem. No worries.
Yeah. Let's just remove the ultimate piece of femininity that you have in your body and call it good. Yeah.
Let's not even investigate.
Not even investigate the root cause, but the fact that our society thinks that having a full hysterectomy is no big deal is ridiculous. Because I know women who have had to have hysterectomies for, valid medical reasons. Thank you. And it is very hard. It is very painful. There is a lot that is lost in a hysterectomy. It is not just a medical procedure that you check the box on. That is a really, really big deal that digs down to your ultimate identity and dignity as a human person, and particularly as a feminine human person. I could go in deeper, but that's not what we're talking about today.
I so agree with you. I couldn't agree more. Here's the bag of lies that we've been sold, that there are quick fixes for these issues. And the truth of the matter is that there is no quick fix to these issues. You can do the work to reboot your body's natural system, right? Your body's natural capabilities, which takes time. I'm not sitting here telling you, hey, implement this program and in 10 days, you're going to be all better.
Right.
It's 30 days to feel the difference. But I will sit here and tell you, if I don't implement this protocol 5 times a week, I'm going to have symptoms. It's an ongoing thing that I have to do, that I choose to do because I don't want to have surgery. But, popping a pill or having surgery. I mean, I'm a numbers girl. I don't like to go pie in the sky. Like, I like data, and the data shows that 25% of these pelvic floor suspension surgeries fail miserably. The side effects.
That's a huge amount of them.
That's huge.
That's
and
massive.
It's devastating.
Yeah.
We're talking about devastating when that mesh falls into the vaginal canal and then starts grabbing other tissues with the pelvic organs. You have a really big problem that now nobody's going to touch from you are not a surgical candidate any long, and your symptoms are way worse. So, we've been sold these lies that, I just do this, and it's devastating. Women are not being given the truth on how we can solve this, what our body's capabilities are. And, that is part of Christina and I's mission.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And and this extends out in so many different places in women's healthcare. I was actually just texting a friend last night, and she was like, women's healthcare is such a joke. It's not healthcare. And I'm like, yeah, it's more like women's hurt care. Like it's really not actually helping us. And this is one facet of so many things we could talk about. The pill, we could talk about, any kind of contraception, actually. We could talk about just the fact that doctors don't really listen to women. And they're
or so shame them.
Or shame
my
them.
Experience is I literally saw my bladder falling out. I was having a lot of downward pressure, like end stages of pregnancy. And I was like, something is wrong. I need to look and see what is going on down there. And I always say, I don't know if you're an art lover, but like, I grew up like with Georgia O'Keeffe.
Yep.
And I was like, my Georgia O'Keeffe turned into a Picasso. I don't even know what's happening down there, but I see something coming out of my body. Like I'm telling my mother this. And I mean, I'm laughing now, but I was crying.
Oh yeah.
But I went to my OB, who was wonderful during my pregnancy. I felt very taken care of. And what did she do? She shamed me. She said, this is not bad, Jen. My rectocele is worse than this. I was asking for a referral to a urogynecologist because naturally I had done my own research before going.
Of course. Yeah.
And
I think we're very similar in that, Jen.
Yeah. She's like, you don't need a referral. This isn't that bad is what she told me. Oh. And I was like, listen, I'm not leaving here without a referral. I don't care essentially what you think. I want to know what a urogynecologist thinks. And I remember I called it like my walk of shame because she left the room, went and told her nurse to write the referral because I needed that with my insurance. And I walked out of the room to the desk and like she was giving me dirty looks. The nurse was like, here you go, like wasting my time. I get into the urogynecologist office. He examines me and he's like, I mean, this is stage 2 prolapse. It's time for surgical intervention.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, and this isn't that bad.
Yeah.
No,
that's just normal. That's what happens after a couple kids. A lot of women's stories.
OBGYNs are great at getting babies out of the womb, but they are not equipped necessarily with the information to be able to diagnose this stuff properly. And because they're uneducated, many of them are just like, I see this all the time. This is normal. This is just what happens when you have babies, and that's what women believe viscerally. And so they have that one conversation and then they just start stuffing this and thinking, well, I can't do anything about this. There's no hope for me. There's no help for me. And then it's years down the road as this stuff gets worse. The pee leaks get worse, gas leaks, pain, pressure, back pain with intimacy, either during intimacy or after intimacy. I mean, these are all the things that we're talking about. And it's a travesty. I mean, it is wrong, and I can't say, I do have empathy for the practitioners in the sense they weren't taught this stuff. I mean, it's not necessarily, I don't want to like point the fingers at them and say, you're wrong. She was wrong for shaming me, but she wasn't educated enough to understand that, this was actually pretty bad.
Yeah.
I wasn't crazy or making this stuff up, which a lot of women are accused of too. Right.
Right. Well, and this just speaks even more to, before we press record, Jen and I were chatting a little bit, about, purity culture and how it's really ingrained into the way that we talk about, for example, our nether regions, right? We just don't even feel comfortable saying, I have something coming out of my vagina and I don't know what it is, or my bladder, or, whatever area you're seeing something come out of, right? We don't even feel comfortable saying those exact words, to our doctor. And in part, that fear is justified because we have a fear of then getting turned around and shamed by our doctor, in the way that Jen was. And I think a lot of people listening probably have similar experiences. I've had experiences, not particularly with pelvic floor things, but things I brought to my doctor and, no, that's not a big deal. And I was like, okay, great. I'm going to go find a new doctor now. Which, a lot of us don't have that, freedom to go and find a new doctor. We're kind of stuck with the doctor that we have. But while that fear might be justified in that sense, it is not at all justified in your dignity as a person. You should not have a fear of going to the doctor and saying these things, and talking about your body parts in the words that they actually are: your vagina, your vulva. These are scientific words.
That's right. No, you're exactly right. Well, it's a problem because I've taught all of my children their proper body parts. Mm-hmm. And if they say penis at school, they get sent to the principal's office. That's a bad word.
That's the same thing as saying
thumb. It's a bad word.
Shoulder.
I agree. I 100% agree, but there's the problem. It gets reinforced as if I say this word, I get in trouble. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that, oh man, that's another thing to talk to your kids about. Why does the world think it's bad to talk about these things? And oh my goodness.
Well, I will say, I'm a data girl. The research shows if anyone's not teaching their kids proper language and explaining their body parts, the research shows that kids who can name penis, vagina are less likely to be victims of sexual abuse.
Wow.
Because they're naming their body parts.
All right. There's your reasoning right there, everybody. Oh man. And this reminds me of an episode. It's probably kind of a while back now. That when Kathleen and I talked about, just funny things that happen when you talk about NFP in your household with kids. And she was talking about how her son saw a skull of I want to say maybe a ram or something like that. And, said, "Hey mommy, that looks like a uterus." And she's like, "Yeah, it does." Good job.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Right? Isn't that fantastic? Gosh, kids are great.
Oh, they are. Look.
Okay. So what I want to ask you now before we have a couple minutes left for our episode is, okay, so someone's listening to this. They're going, okay, this is amazing. There's something else out there. What are some of the signs that someone would recognize of I do need to look into my pelvic floor? Is it just kind of if you've had a baby, you should probably look into your pelvic floor, or are there specific things that we might feel or see or experience?
Let me say, this will not hurt you. It will only help you. So if intuitively you're questioning, is there something going on? There probably is.
See, I'm sitting here intuitively questioning, is there something going on?
So I'm going to go through the litany of things that are associated. And we have a quiz that women can take. Like, is this really for me? We have a quiz on our website. I can send you the link as well.
Oh, great. I can put that in the show notes.
That's great because it helps connect the dots between, oh my goodness, all of these different things are related to my pelvic floor. Yes, they are. So this can be, a lot of the common stuff are bladder issues. So, and I want to be clear, this does not matter how much water you are drinking in a day. Okay. Your bladder is capable of holding the fluid. Okay. So this is not about, but Jen, I drink so much water. That's the first thing people tell me. I drink a lot of water too. I still don't get up at night to pee, and I still don't pee more than 10 times a day. So we have a bladder diary in the program, and you can simply do this on your own, like do a little tick mark every single time you go to pee each day. Mm-hmm. If you're peeing more than 10 times a day, that you have a frequency issue. And typically that means that you're not emptying your bladder fully. Now, this can be because of the falling of those organs. You're not able to completely empty your bladder. We teach a potty technique to help you with that. But so it's peeing more than 10 times a day, leaking pee, either when you're coughing, sneezing, jumping, laughing, like if you've given up jumping jacks because you leak pee, or all of a sudden you feel like you need to pee and you're like, holy smokes, if I don't make it to the restroom very soon, I'm going to leak myself. So if you're having urgency leaks or stress leaks with jumping, coughing, sneezing, laughing, or some women, particularly if they have an over tight pelvic floor, which would mean they might be having pain upon insertion with intimacy, or they're dribbling pee when they're having sex or after they have sex. That's also a telltale sign of hypertonic pelvic floor. Another sign would be you pee, you get up and you dribble. That's a sign of a hypertonic pelvic floor. The muscles won't let go to relax the opening to be able to allow you to completely empty your bladder. So I'm getting into some of the nuances, but these things matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
In terms of the rectal stuff, which is the most embarrassing stuff, I can't tell you the women that we have worked with who have been to a number of gastroenterologists trying to get these things solved. And I will say that if you've known that you have, poop problems, whether that's chronic constipation, chronic diarrhea, while, you might have another condition, like some of the women that we work with have IBS or Crohn's disease, all of that straining with constipation can create a falling of the rectum. So this becomes a secondary condition because of all that stress, that downward pressure, or same thing with chronic diarrhea. The symptoms are a little bit different. We have a great YouTube video, I will say, on like 10 signs you have a rectocele. We have 3 different videos where we teach, and we have the picture of the pelvic organs to help explain this more in detail.
Fantastic.
So if women are interested, go find us on YouTube, Tighten Your Tinkler. We have a ton of educational resources there. But this could be leaking poop, like if you bend over and like a hard pebble of poop comes out, or if you have an accident when your stool is loose, or, a common one that women will say is they bent over and they don't have control over passing gas. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Pressure, or, when they do have a bowel movement, they're wiping and wiping and wiping, and like, it just keeps coming because the rectum is maybe falling out and has turned out. So there's this never ending wiping that happens, and just more and more and more. It can also present like you feel like you've had a bowel movement, but some is still stuck in there. And that can be because of how the rectum has bulged into the vagina and now stool is pocketing. So then another thing is you smell poop, and you're like, I've gone to the bathroom, I've cleaned myself. I don't know what's up with this.
Yeah.
Other embarrassing things are the pain with intimacy. Real common things are back pain, low back pain, mid back pain. And it was interesting at the beginning, you were talking about neck pain. Something cool that women don't realize is the connective tissue for your pelvic organs actually comes and wraps around the neck. So with prolapse, oftentimes we start to see this forward head posture because as the organs are falling, it's pulling on the neck.
Interesting.
Now, common, working on computers and driving and doing all the things also contribute to that. It's not helping any of those things, but it is very common for women that have prolapse to have neck pain, to have migraines. Flat feet is another common thing, bunions, because everything's connected. And so as a biomechanic junkie, I love kind of looking at the movement story of each body. When our bodies are designed as such, when one part becomes weak, just like the body of Christ, the other parts start jumping in and helping, right? So, pelvic floor is weak, hip rotators are like, we gotcha, no problem. Hello, piriformis syndrome. Hello, IT band syndrome. Hello, sacroiliitis, right? Some women might have some light bulbs here because the hip rotators are taking over for the pelvic floor. If you have a separation of the abdominal muscles, your hip flexors are like, no worries, girl, I gotcha. So your hip flexors get tight, your pelvic floor gets tight, your abs get weaker. I mean, there's just all of these things that end up happening from a compensatory perspective to try to help the body, but it can only help for so long before other things start to break down because we're not operating in the way that we were designed to operate.
Right. Oh my gosh. I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if like everyone listening was like one thing on that list. I'm gonna think about that. And I think it's really important to mention before we close out that these things, a lot of these things that Jen just mentioned have become commonplace.
Yes.
And have become accepted. And all of these things that she just mentioned are not how your body is supposed to function.
Yes.
And it's really important to have your body function the way it's supposed to. And so it, if you listen to something in that list that she was talking about, look into it, get curious about it. And maybe look into Tighten Your Tinkler because these are really important. It's really important for your body to work the way that it's supposed to. And just because they've become commonplace does not mean that they're normal. We talk about that a lot on this podcast, right? We talk about like pain with menstruation isn't normal. It's commonplace. It's not normal. This is the same, right? These pelvic floor issues are commonplace, but they're not normal. And you don't just sit in the irregularity. Make a change.
I love that you said that. And Ellen, just to piggyback on that for women who are thinking, okay, well, what is this? Our signature program is really, we teach you a 10-minute a day routine that you can, it's a movement routine. We also have some tools, some what we call recovery tools. I talked about like the pelvic organ decompression, the different potty positions. These are lifestyle interventions that you're using as you implement this 10-minute a day movement routine to optimize your body, to stop the stuff that's bugging you, and then better be able to optimize how you're moving and functioning. And so we're moms too. Like, we want it to fit into people's day. And one of the biggest comments that we get is, I can't believe like this 10-minute a day routine has like changed my life so much. I mean,
wow.
It's awesome. I can't say it enough. Like, it is life changing. And, from the depths of our heart, Christina and myself are just very heart centered. We want to educate women that you don't have to live with this stuff. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be penetrated. You don't have to do Kegels. You don't have to have surgery unless you're well beyond, stage 3, stage 4 prolapse. Unfortunately, you are a better candidate for surgery because it's the tissue degradation at that point has gotten to a place where you're going to need some additional support. But most women are not there. You're having pretty bad symptoms before you get there. So there is hope. If you are, feeling like you want to check this out, please do. Even if it's just going to our YouTube page and further empowering yourself with information that you can take to your doctor or your healthcare provider or implement. I mean, we give a lot of great free tips there that can really just start making a difference today. So please do that for yourself.
Please go look into it. Well, that's awesome. And so info is going to be in the show notes of, where to find more info and a couple of freebies that Jen and Christina give away. And so definitely check that out if you're curious. Jen, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. This was so much good info. I loved it.
It was fun. Thank you for having me, Ellen.
Thanks so much for listening. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning, I did actually personally purchase this program for myself, and it was incredible. It helped so much. And so I highly encourage you to check out this program and see if it might be a right fit for you. The links to those are in the show notes. And if you have any questions, comments, episode topic ideas, or anything, I love to hear from you guys. Reach out on Instagram or send me an email. Links to those are in the show notes. Until next time.